I mean, Ed Miliband doing what he's doing. I mean, we're not using any less gas or oil. We're not using any less at all. And we're importing it all. That's all that's happening. We're importing it all. And we're paying absolute fortunes because of it. So, for example, at the moment, we're paying £110 on average per megawatt hour of electricity. Now, £60 of that is actually carbon tax. It's just madness.
So drama? You did
drama, history and English lit, and then I did drama and politics and English at A-level. And so what I've been doing since I'd started doing the campaigning anti-net zero, because I see it very much as a libertarian issue and nothing to do with green stuff, so I'll, explain. I had to get my head round physics, science, and I was having to have arguments with climate scientists, having been very well briefed by our people, mainly cancelled scientists and physicists, defunded people because they weren't going with the net zero narrative. And I was having arguments with these people and winning, because the thing about people that are all very pro all the net zero stuff is they don't expect to be challenged, even by a little blonde Essex girl that hasn't got a science background. They don't expect it. So they didn't have any arguments back. So I started winning arguments with scientists on national television. So that was quite cool. Yeah.
Did the drama help?
I think the drama helps me a lot. I think if you talk to anyone I've ever been involved with romantically, the word drama and love go hand in hand. Although, I think they love it, really.
Hold on, you must be friends with Alex Phillips.
Alex Phillips. I know Alex, yeah?
I think you two here together would be wild.
Really?
'Cause, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have a mutual friend.
Which is?
Nigel.
Oh, so I've interviewed Nigel before.
Yeah, he's lovely. And he's a big supporter of what I've been doing.
Yeah.
He's been really good, actually.
One of my favourite things about interviewing Nigel was actually I got to have a coffee with him before the interview, and I felt I got to really see a side of him I hadn't seen.
Yeah, the real him.
The real him.
Yeah.
He's I think a lot of people don't see that side, and they think he's somebody he isn't. And
I think the people got to see the real Nigel in the jungle.
Yes.
And, obviously it's not scientific, but chatting to black taxi drivers, you get a feel for what people are thinking. And I certainly got that impression from black taxi drivers of all different backgrounds, religion, race. They all said, oh, yeah, Nigel on I'm a Celebrity. He was cool. I don't know why people start talking to me about him wherever I go. I don't mention him and people start going, reform, Nigel Farage. Maybe I am linked and they don't, in terms of my media presence, but they don't want to say anything. But black taxi drivers, that's literally the first thing they say to me.
Well, I think there's been this change. I was talking about it earlier. I think there's been this change where when reform first came on the scene, I think people didn't want to publicly admit or talk about the fact that they were voting reform or they liked Nigel.
Do you mean before Nigel became the leader? When he became the leader? When he became the leader.
And this period up until, I would say, up until about, I want to say a few months before the election, because I remember pre-election when you were talking about reform to people, there was still these kind of like, really? But Nigel and Brexit and it was a bit...
That's gone, hasn't it, Peter?
Gone. No,
that's gone. Well, we can see in the polling that it's gone.
But it's gone from people being a little bit ashamed or shy about admitting it to saying, hold on, why the fuck aren't you voting reform?
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? Are you mental?
Are you woke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a woke conservative?
Do you want kids to be mutilated? Is that what you want?
Yeah. It's been this real shift now. And I mean, I blame the media for a lot of where we've got to. And then I also blame this whole uniparty bollocks that's been going on.
Oh, I know. The same policies in every single party.
Same thing. But it's watching the Overton window shift on reform. I think personally, I thought it's fascinating. A
good friend of mine made a joke the other day. He said that he should start selling Overton windows because all he keeps hearing is about how Overton windows are shifting. I thought that was quite funny.
There's a hotel it's in Texas, where Texas Tech University is, called the Overton.
Right.
And I took a nice big picture of the window.
That's good. That is good.
I said it's shifted.
Literally, the Overton window.
The fascinating thing about that is I actually was out there interviewing a climate scientist.
Oh, really? What, a real one? Or
a real well, it's
what,
a
one of the
university
ones
one.
that's in the? Oh, okay.
I don't think she's a net zero, but I think she's a. So this is the argument on this one. I always find fascinating. It's not whether net zero is a good idea or not, because it's obviously moronic for our country to impoverish ourselves
and import it elsewhere.
Yeah,
if you believe in it. Yeah,
it's just nuts.
Yeah,
but actually, the conversations about what is climate change, is it real, is it man-made, and I think there's a blurring of the lines on that conversation.
Possibly, yeah.
I'm Catherine Hayhoe.
The thing is about being able to have the conversation. That's the thing. Absolutely, I get what you're saying. There are arguments. Of course, there are arguments. But when you're not allowed to put forward arguments that oppose the mainstream narrative, that's when I get very suspicious. And we saw that very much during the whole COVID thing. You weren't allowed to have a different opinion. And then suddenly now all the different opinions are the ones that are coming out as the correct, the accurate description of what actually occurred. So, yeah.
That was my moment. COVID was where everything finally...
Was it? Did you have a bit of a ding-dong moment?
Yeah, because I'm vaccinated and regret it.
Okay.
I regret it.
None of my family we decided not. We're all pains in the bottom. We all decided not to do it. My nan had one and got shingles immediately within 2 days.
Well, I wanted to go. So my dad lives in Ireland. I wanted to go and visit him. I had to be vaccinated to go. So I was like, but I wasn't worried.
Yeah, but there was a way of.
I know.
I'm not going to say it because I would never ever endorse anything that wasn't 100% legit.
I wasn't. I've done a lot of drugs in dodgy toilets in London. A little jab didn't worry me. I wasn't actually concerned about it.
Yeah.
And actually, I actually thought, why is everyone concerned about this? And I've now, I think COVID was the kind of the period where a lot of people finally went, oh yeah, basically everyone is lying to us about everything. And when they're either lying because they've got some weird incentive, or they're lying because they fucked up, or they're lying because they don't know what they're doing because they're incompetent. But basically,
they're all as scary as each other. They are. Aren't they? Yeah.
And then you go. We have this guy earlier, Noel. Wilcox.
Yeah, I know Noel. I saw him.
Yeah,
he's great. He's a proper campaigner.
He was talking about this scandal with the CMS, with the Child Maintenance Service.
Oh, it's horrific. Yeah. Well, I've had meetings with him about it because he wanted me to make some introductions to people in reform for him.
Right. Okay. So I'm like, okay, so this is just another scandal. Potentially hundreds, maybe a couple of thousand people could have committed suicide based on being overcharged by the CMS, and that's another scandal on top of a rape gang scandal, on top of a scandal with the post offices, on top of the fact that we have a government that is taxing the hell out of us, on top of the fact that we have these ULEZ cameras in London, tracking us and finding us in every way they can, on top of the fact that businesses are closing down, people are leaving. I'm like, everything has gone to shit.
Yeah, everything has.
Everything has gone to shit.
But I have hope. I have hope. And it's interesting, actually, you see the photographs of the people that are heading up these agencies, like the child maintenance thing, like the woman that was in charge of the post office and everything. And why are they always such unattractive women?
I can't say this.
No, but they are. And you think, you're a bit unhappy with what you've been presented with, and you're going to decide. You've made a decision that you're going to take it out on everyone else, aren't you? It's just the lack of empathy. Absolute lack of empathy. For example, the woman that chaired up the child maintenance thing, she was being told about these suicides. So what? The post office, the woman who was heading up the post office, she was being told that people were taking their own lives or becoming depressed or suicidal. Doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I just look at these rooms of people and I just think they don't look like a private enterprise. They
wouldn't last 5 minutes.
No. And so what is it about government that attracts... Does it attract shit people, or is that the only place for shit people to go? And are the structures so poor that people just get away with being shit? Something is.
There's a lot... everything you've said I think is correct. But I also think it's about that people can achieve power whereas in ordinary circumstances, they would never have any power. They would not be able to generate the budgets through private enterprise that they are playing with as well, because it's public money. So, yeah. And you can't get rid of them for being incompetent. That's the main thing. You can't get rid
of them, and you have to pay them expensive pensions.
And they have quotas for gender and all sorts of other things as well.
Yeah, and so even if someone like Reform could be successful, what then stops a party like that not just becoming more government? Because it must be hard. Like, I don't want to just say, oh, if Reform come in, everything will be different. There's something about government that creates dysfunction and incompetence.
Well, but you could argue that. You could say, why... I understand completely where you're coming from, and it is different in this country because we have a permanent civil service, and it's not the same as the States. But to a certain extent, they have a permanent civil service, but it is different. It is slightly different. Trump is making a bit of an impact, isn't he?
Sure.
So why couldn't we? Why couldn't, I mean, this country, not Reform, but why couldn't a party come in and make big changes? I mean, if, hopefully it's a when, but, well, no, I mustn't say that. I mustn't endorse any particular political party. Told you I was going to make some cock-ups, didn't I? If Reform win at the next election and they need to form a government, I mean, they're going to be... The civil service has never had to deal with anything like this before. You've got a party that's got 5 MPs. They've got no one in the Lords. They've got no one with any ministerial experience. No one. I mean, obviously, they've got Richard Tice and Nigel that served in the European Parliament. Obviously, Lee Anderson has been an MP, but not for a tremendous amount of time, So suddenly, they're going to have to put 130 people in the Lords. They're just going to have to do it straight away. And they're going to be having to put them in the Lords to create them to be ministers. They're going to have all these brand new MPs, but no one with any experience. So, okay, so we wake up May in, I think it would be 4 years' time, and Reform have to form a government. They've got 5 MPs. They've got no one in the Lords. They've got no one with any ministerial experience. And because of the way the funding works, whereby political parties are given funding from the government to get advisors and people in place that have an understanding of how the system works, because they've only got 5 MPs, they haven't been allocated anywhere near the amount of funding that they need to hire all these different people who've got experience in different departments and treasury or whatever. So this is going to be, if it happens, monumental. The civil service will never have dealt with anything like this before.
Well, they'll be crapping themselves that they're all going to lose their jobs.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those interesting things, because it's like, maybe that's what we need, is a bunch of people who haven't got the experience to come in, who aren't trapped by legacy and history.
Like Elon Musk, he's a businessman.
And just go and go, this is nonsense, let's get rid of it. This is nonsense, let's get rid of it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I was listening to those tossers on the Rest of Politics the other day, and they would...
Is that a technical term?
They're doing my... I used to like that show, because there used to be a separation between the two, and they would challenge each other, and you would understand what the establishment thinks, and I figure out government. Now it's just the two of them crying about Trump all the time, and it's just... Look, I think there are fair questions to raise about Trump. Of course, you should be objective, but...
But they call it Trump derangement syndrome.
It's just like, shut up. It's like whenever Alistair Campbell starts talking about any kind of conflict with his, with this like patronising tone, I'm like, you contributed to the dodgy dossier that sent us to war. Shut the fuck up, man. Wait up a second. But
the moral high ground, it's a bit difficult for him to take that, isn't it?
But I was listening and thinking, well, hold on a second. They were complaining. I can't remember what they were complaining about. But all I was thinking was, well, hold on. You presided over you've presided over government. Both of you presided over multiple administrations that have left us in this state.
Yeah.
Where we have...
Or engineered it. If you depending on how you want to look at it, you could say that the Labour government, the 97 Labour government, engineered us to get to this point.
Certainly engineered us to get to this point under the what we have with the civil service now. But even under Rory Stewart, he was in government.
Yeah.
Do you
think he looks a bit like the Green Goblin?
I think he looks like
my son thinks he does.
No, I think...
William Dafoe, isn't it? Is it William Dafoe?
A little bit, yeah. But, I don't know. He's an odd character. Sometimes
he's not a Tory. You know that.
Yeah, no. I mean,
he's a Liberal Democrat. If any, in fact, he might be slightly left to the Liberal Democrats.
Well, I think in some ways parts of the Labour Party are now to the right of the Conservatives.
You couldn't make it up, could you? You just couldn't.
I honestly, I can see a scenario where the Labour Party and the Conservatives form a coalition to try and stop reform, which would be the weirdest scenario ever.
Well, it would just prove what everyone's been saying, that you've got a uni party with uni policies, net zero being one of them. And yeah, they're just globalist stooges.
But if everything is shit, I think we do need a change. I mean, the size of the civil service, the growth in our tax, the stagnant growth of the economy, like all this shit.
Let me give you a figure here. I should know it off by heart. This is what I was saying about everything about that. I should know all these figures off by heart. But this is just quite funny. The UK government employs over 500,000. That's grown over 100,000 in the last in the last 5 years. But this is brilliant. Contrast this.
That's a 20% increase in 5 years.
In 5 years, but
doing what?
Well, exactly, a load of rubbish, probably doing LGBTQI trans books for 4-year-olds. Contrast this with the 15,000 civil servants who ran the British Empire when it covered 25% of the world in 1854. I mean, you know, I imagine that there was a lot of, it would have all been men, wouldn't it? And they would have all been in the office.
You've been going through the procurement files, right?
I've been having a look at them. Oh my goodness!
I mean, that's where the significant amount of money is being wasted.
Oh yeah, one of Nigel's things actually I thought was quite funny. Right, so which one? Hang on a minute. Which one is it? The UK taxpayer. Government spent £200,000 on studying the impact of Star Wars on the environment.
I know.
200,000 quid.
By the way, did you see
I could have bought a little flat in Essex for that.
I've got the funniest thing to show you. Connor, can you bring up Marty Bennett's Twitter?
Marty who?
He's a friend of mine in America. Because you know they've been, Elon Musk and has been going through their own Doge thing and exposing things. I saw the funniest thing yesterday. This is brilliant.
Let's have a look.
Right. Scroll down. We're looking for the blind guy. You'll see him with glasses on. Keep going. I'm sure Marty tweeted this out. Keep going. Yeah, that's it. This is it.
Let's have a look at this.
Not to be insensitive, but it's beyond ironic that the Democrats' witness defending the government's horrific record on finding waste and fraud is an actual blind man. And
don't make me laugh at that. No, oh, God forgive me. Please don't make me laugh.
I'm not laughing at being blind, but I'm pretty sure someone put something out saying that he couldn't see any waste.
Oh no!
But if everything's got so ridiculous now. It's
one of my super fans on Twitter is blind.
Well, that's
fine.
I
know, but I feel really mean now. But I do get your point. It is quite funny.
No, I'm not picking on him for being blind, but it's the fact that he's at I don't know, is that a Senate testimony here?
I think it was an irony that someone that thinks that I'm really stunning is actually blind.
I mean, that's a different topic. It's a different topic. But no, listen, we're in this position now where I think we have I think there's a lot of British people handling it like British people. Like, it's almost laughable how shit everything is. Like, nothing works.
It's got to the point where it's actually funny.
Yeah. We've got a incompetent government. We've got no experience in running business that are actively destroying our economy.
No, there's no private enterprise experience on the front bench whatsoever.
No, zero.
When you compare that to Trump's team, which is, I think it's got like a few hundred years between them of making millions from scratch.
But this is why I think people were finding reform interesting, because Rupert Lowe is a successful businessman.
He is.
Richard Tice is a successful businessman.
Nigel was a very successful businessman that ran a big firm.
And, we want more of that. I run businesses. I want people in charge of our country. I don't mind paying tax, but people who understand the challenges of running business.
Yeah. And they don't just want to spend other people's money. No, absolutely. I completely agree with you. 100%.
So talk to me about this net zero stuff, because
God, yeah.
What the fuck is Ed Miliband doing?
I was unfortunate enough actually to meet him at a party once, and we were talking about net zero stuff, and he was very hyper, very, very hyper. And I said to him that I thought that the science needed to be challenged. I questioned the science to him. And he went, no, Lois, you don't understand. And he kept grabbing me, right, trying to take me to this stairwell to talk to me about why net zero was not just, necessary, but was what was absolutely necessary, and he really believes in it. And I was saying to him, because they're so unused to being challenged on the science, I was saying, well, I think this and I think that, and I've been told this, but there's a Nobel Prize winning physicist that doesn't agree with you, and he was like, his whole body was shaking because he's not used to being contradicted, and he really wanted to impress upon me that it was real and it was necessary. But even Ed Miliband knows that if we decarbonise in this country, it just goes abroad. It just goes abroad. So if you believe that CO2 is causing any problems, by the way, CO2 is life. Yeah, you and I are carbon. We exhale carbon. Everything is carbon. Yeah, so the whole CO2 being a pollutant thing, I think, is an actual bad joke by a globalist sitting in a cave stroking a white cat laughing at us. I really do. That the fact that CO2 could actually be a pollutant, but anyway.
That's not the claim, though. It's a pollutant, is it? I think
no, they're saying it's a pollutant. They're describing CO2 as needing to be reduced because its very existence is causing, first of all, they said global warming, and then the planet got colder. I thought, oh no, we better change it. So then they said climate change, which climate change could cover literally anything. So, I mean, Ed Miliband doing what he's doing, it's just madness. I mean, we're not using any less gas or oil. We're not using any less at all. And we're importing it all. That's all that's happening. We're importing it all, and we're paying absolute fortunes because of it. So, for example, at the moment, we're paying £110 on average per megawatt hour of electricity. Now, £60 of that is actually carbon tax, right?
Is that true?
Yep. So £50 is what we're paying, right? So that figure has gone up when we were about to have a blackout a few months ago to £6,000 per megawatt.
Hold on. Who's paying that? Us as customers?
Us. Yeah.
The same business and residential?
Yep. That's why everyone's going out of business.
Hold on. So the carbon tax, basically,
it's over half.
But we have the highest energy prices in Europe.
We do. Yeah, we do. And it's because of the carbon tax, but it's also because we are not exploiting our own resources, and the resources that we are new resources, but and the resources that we already have, we closed down. So we closed down the coal mines, and we're not fracking, and we're not granting any more any new licenses for North Sea oil as well. I mean, it's complete madness. So 110 quid, large majority of that is carbon tax. We have paid in the last few months to stop the lights going off £6,000 per megawatt hour because because they know that the lights are going to go off. They're going to charge us a fortune, aren't they? Because to give it, using the interconnectors between us and France. But France will say no eventually with their nuclear energy. And recently in London, it's my understanding that the mayor had to strike a deal. We were hours away from losing all electricity in London. Right? Can you imagine?
Is that known publicly?
Yeah, 9,000 quid we paid per megawatt hour. 9,000 quid. So it's normally £110, and that's expensive. Now in Norway,
so what we bought is emergency power from France.
Yeah, emergency power, 9,000.
But who pays it? Is the government subsidising it?
The government. Well, no, it goes on our energy bills.
Hold on. What are we looking at here, Con? 12% of electricity bills are made up of environmental and social levels. Just 3.4% of gas bills. Levies. Hold on.
Yeah, but there's all different things that things are called. It works out just over half of the £110.
Hold on. So wholesale adjustment net worth. What's policy?
Yeah, that's probably one of the percentages. That would be green policy, I should imagine.
Policy headroom. I don't even understand what this all means. I don't understand what.
Do you know what? I will introduce you to a good friend of mine called Professor Brian Catt, and he will sit down and explain everything with you, and your head will explode. I love Brian, but your head will explode. But he has all of the facts and figures from publicly available material that he goes through with me at considerable length. And but the 9,000 quid thing, that's publicly known, and that was to stop. Imagine if the lights went out in London.
Yeah, but hold on, that would have meant our energy bills went up 90.
It was for a very short while. So we
plugged a gap.
Yeah. But what happens is renewables don't work at the moment. Like, for example, actually, Nigel told me this 2 weeks ago. There was one particular night where there was not just a little bit of wind and solar, but zero. Yeah, there was zero. So the renewable dream, if we didn't have 100% gas backup, 100%, that would have been it.
There's a flip side to that as well. Do you know how much we're paying the wind companies to turn off? Do you know about this?
Yeah, I know about it.
Because we're paying, what did we discover, Connor? It was over £1 billion a year? £1 billion a year.
1.7, I think.
1.7 billion. Do you know what they do in America for this? In Texas?
What?
There's these Bitcoin companies.
Yeah.
They plug their miners into the network.
Yeah.
And they just use that unused power and they mine Bitcoin, they sell it on the open network. We could go up to Scotland.
Yeah.
We could plug these Bitcoin miners in.
Yeah.
When they
I literally don't know what you're talking about.
Do you know what Bitcoin is?
I do know what it is, but when you're saying about plugging it in and stuff.
Oh, you'll love this.
Okay.
As a conservative, you'll love this.
Okay.
Do you like the fact that the government controls our money?
The answer is no.
Okay. Would you like to have a form of money that the government can't control, they can't manipulate, they can't print?
Yes.
A digital gold, say. That's what Bitcoin is. That's all it is. It's digital gold.
You could teach me some sales techniques.
I keep all my money in Bitcoin. I have done for 8-9 years now. Now, fuck the government. But the way Bitcoin works is, very quick thing.
Aren't you supposed to diversify?
Into what?
No, but aren't you supposed to have like physical gold, property, money in all different things in case something happens?
You're supposed to. I just never have.
You shouldn't tell people that.
This is just my decision.
Yeah, no, I appreciate what you're saying. Right, so what you're saying is that they're...
So the way Bitcoin works is,
because
it's money the government can't turn off. So these are Bitcoin miners. The way it works, and my simplest...
I thought you meant people with little hats.
No, that's what people do. The simplest explanation I can give you is the way that Bitcoin works. The inventor wanted to create money that government can't turn off. And so the way they do it is most financial systems have a central database. Lois has this much money, Peter has this much money. I sent Lois £1,000, so they deduct a bit.
Thank you.
And there's one copy of that ledger. The way Bitcoin works is everybody has an identical copy of the ledger. And so if they try and turn it off at one place, it exists everywhere.
Oh, I see. But okay. So there's no one can flick a switch or bomb somewhere or whatever.
China banned Bitcoin, didn't matter because everyone has a copy of the ledger.
Everyone had it. It was.
And so the way it does that is your copy of the ledger is this thing. You must have heard of a blockchain.
I have heard.
Okay, the blockchain is very simple. It's a series of blocks, and each block is a group of transactions. And every 10 minutes, a new block is created, and it's sent to everyone in the world. So everyone knows the state of the Bitcoin network. But the way that works is you have to have those machines whizzing around, processing the transactions and creating the blocks. Okay? And so
a friend of mine called Adam, actually, who's got ADHD, goes very, very quick. But he specializes in what you're talking about. And he tried to explain it to me, but I didn't get it. I think I get it now.
So these machines, they're all competing to create the next block. That's what decentralizes it, okay? They're all competing, and when they find a block, they get a payment, and that payment is a little bit of Bitcoin that's worth a few $100,000.
Right.
You can plug all those machines care about is getting the cheapest energy possible. So these companies, they're all around the world trying to find the cheapest energy possible. Here's a site. That's a Bitcoin mining site. And look, it's near a wind farm. And so what they'll do is when a wind farm gets created, but they haven't maybe done the interconnectors yet to connect it to the network, they're idle and wasted time. Bitcoin company comes in, they take the energy on the cheap, they mine Bitcoin, and they turn it into real money.
The humble bee, a keystone species crucial to the survival of Earth's inhabitants. Here's how things would look if bees vanished. And here's how they'd look if humans vanished. But imagine if instead we became a keystone species by doing things the right way, by taking responsibility for our actions and becoming the solution. Iron mines the world's most responsible currency the right way. Because the future depends on it.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, the problem obviously that we've got right this second in February in England is that I think that's brilliant, by the way. But just in terms of wind farms in general, there isn't much wind in February and there isn't any solar. So you've got a situation, for example, now where we've got our coldest month and our stillest month in many ways before we get blustery sort of spring. And there is no renewable energy.
Where are the incentives on all this? Because
Government incentives. That's why Reform, funnily enough, have just announced, and also it's something that we advocate in the institute that I've brought to the UK and Europe, the Heartland Institute, which is an American institute, free thinking think tank, that advocate free market solutions. So what we say is, okay, if it's so great, let the market decide.
No,
and of course, the market would just go,
What would happen to Dale Vince at that point?
Oh, I really don't like that man. When he got divorced, he said some really nasty things about his ex-wife outside the court. That's so uncool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very uncool.
To talk about a girl like that. She didn't deserve that.
Didn't she come out and say he flies on private jets?
She did, but he did.
Oh, after that though, I think.
Well, yeah, probably. But I don't know. I just thought you have no class whatsoever, zero class. And he's completely made all his money on government subsidies. It's so dodgy. He's donated money to the Labour Party, got it back in subsidies and allowances and grants. I think they gave him a grant to pay for a £300,000 electric Ferrari or something like that, or a supercar. I can't remember which one it was.
Connor, ping up Google for a second. Because I love this.
Yeah.
Because he's a Labour supporter. He's a nasty
one, actually.
Well, he's just full of shit.
And he tells fibs.
And he sues everyone.
He does.
He might sue us. Just search for Dale Vince Labour donations.
Yeah. And maybe look at the sports car thing. That was quite funny. He doesn't like me anyway.
He won't like me.
No.
All right, so Dale Vince demands ban on political donations despite donating almost 5.5. So he hates the fact that he has to donate.
Well, he gets it all back.
So he's donated £5 million to the Labour Party. Now look up Ecotricity.
That's right. Yeah.
Ecotricity. ECOTRICITY. Subsidies. Right.
Taxpayers, there you go. They'll be good. They're good, the Taxpayers Alliance.
Yeah, that first one.
Yeah, that'll be the one. Let's have a look.
Dale Vince, which self funds Labour, received 179. No, there's way more.
Yeah, but that's just then, and it'll be a lot more than that. It'll be millions and millions and millions.
Can you go back a couple of pages, Con? Right.
Labour's biggest corporate donor.
No, there we go. The wind tycoon, the donations Labour,
and 36 million in subsidies. Yeah, they're slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, just like
and you think all that money, and he dresses like that.
Well, I mean,
no, you look good.
I mean, I think I
no, but no, you look good. He dresses. I don't know what he dresses like, to be honest.
But this to me is just kind of like in your face, open corruption.
They don't care.
I'm giving the Labour Party
Yeah.
Millions of pounds.
At least the Tories used to hide it. I mean, at least they used to make an effort. You know, do you know what I mean? I mean, when we were kids and we were watching the news, if it came out, they would resign,
Yes.
wouldn't they? They would. There was an honour in them. You know, this lot, they don't care.
It is just open, in-your-face corruption that we're all paying for.
Doesn't matter. No one resigns anymore. I don't know if you've noticed that. They just wait for it to blow over. You know, someone's boyfriend buys them a pair of glasses and a couple of suits. Doesn't matter. We'll just, we'll just plough on and make up some fake story about a love child, and then suddenly everything's okay again. I'm not going to name any names.
Yeah, you're going to get me in trouble here, but I care. But yeah, but so I think we're getting to this point now where people have said, I've had enough. This is so
enough.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
Enough of the incompetence, enough of the corruption, enough of the lying. I think, and it's not just the government, it's the media as well.
Oh, it's awful.
They've become so
but
useless.
It's farcical. And we said before, didn't we, COVID changed everything.
Yeah.
You know, when we saw on our social media, at least tens of thousands of people protesting disgusting outside the BBC at the way they were portraying. And you had people, the news presenters, you could see them in the background behind them through the glass, and they weren't reporting on it. The BBC were not reporting on the protest against them. And you think, we don't trust you anymore.
What do you think will happen with the BBC? Do you think it feels like it's cooked, but it's got a bit of time? The problem is, there's parts of BBC I like. I
do.
I like Radio
Blinders.
I like Radio 5. I think the sport they do is good.
I've got very nostalgic about the BBC, and it's taken me a lot to turn me against it. And even now, there's still a little part of me that's got that sort of nostalgic thing. I must say, my Jewish friends have zero nostalgia for the BBC.
Yes.
Like, there's not even a 0.5%. You know,
we used to get
there's a report actually called the Billionaire Report about anti-Semitism, which has been suppressed for 20 years. They did their own internal inquiry into institutional anti-Semitism in the BBC, and the findings have been suppressed for 20 years.
I think if the BBC was defunded and wound down, we would find a lot of shit out that's gone on there.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely
right.
But
I mean, I love Top of the Pops. I miss Top of the Pops.
Where is Top of the Pops? Yeah, I
it's
mean,
gone now.
You know what? You know when you have the Top of the Pops, they show on BBC 4, which I do watch. And I feel sorry for the bands that were always introduced by Jimmy Savile. Because I read this article where someone noted that any band that was, normally introduced by Jimmy doesn't get, doesn't get shown again on BBC 4.
So they miss out on their royalties.
They miss out, and the coverage. But I had a bit of an alarming experience for Jimmy Savile.
Do I want to hear this? How old are you?
Well, funnily enough, I was in my early 20s, but I was with a friend of mine called Simon Woodruff that owns Yo Sushi. Yeah. And he had his little daughter there, beautiful little girl. Well, she wasn't a little girl, but she was 15, right? So I'm 21, 22. She's 15. We have our picture taken with Sir Jimmy, yeah. And he waits for the camera click, because it was cameras then, and goosed both of us.
What, like on that?
Just live, like just as he clicked. Because I mean, I've been to weddings in the 80s, 90s. I'm used to it in Essex. But poor little Charlotte jumped about 100 foot in the air.
Well, there's that famous video where he's doing it on Jim Will Fix It, where you can see the girl bouncing around. She's getting all uncomfortable. Yeah.
Well, anyway, yeah, exactly. But so I thought, okay, bloody hell. But it was fun. It was, as I say, it didn't bother me. But Charlotte was only 15, and that was our experience of Sir Jimmy Savile. It's difficult to explain to people when we were kids how famous he was.
He was the
even though he goosed me, I still didn't say anything bad about him.
Well, you all wanted to go on Jim Will Fix It because we had the thing we wanted. I wanted him to fix it for me to play for Liverpool.
I wanted him to fix it for me to meet Michael Jackson.
Okay, I mean, you've got...
I've got some weird stuff going on now.
Yeah, this is not a good track record of people.
No, it isn't. Come on, it was the 80s. Come on.
But the thing about the BBC is, like, a lot of my American friends, they don't understand the BBC. They're like, they just think it is just state television, state propaganda. They don't understand the nostalgia, the things, the good TV shows we had.
I know.
And I wish they just wouldn't do news anymore. I think they shouldn't do news anymore.
Yeah, but even their programmes are woke. By the way, there's a new there's a series that I love, or that I did love, on ITV called Unforgotten. It's like a detective drama series. It's quite big, actually. And in their most recent series, they've got a character who appears on something that's basically GB News, that's anti-net zero. But it's a...
Is it you?
I think so, because some of the lines they've given her, I recognise as me having come out with.
Hold on, can we find it?
But she hasn't got long blonde hair. They've given her a little brown bob, but it's definitely supposed to be
Essex?
Me. She's not posh, no.
I didn't say that. You can be posh from Essex. I mean, Posh Spice.
Oh, yeah. Actually, it's quite interesting because Posh Spice was on television a couple of years ago, and I was in the kitchen and my kids had the telly on, and I thought it was me on the telly. Because I came in, I said, "Oh, is it me?" And Richard, my son, said, "No, it's Victoria Beckham." And it's the only girl that I've ever heard with a very similar voice to mine. So, but I am from Leigh-on-Sea, so I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but that is actually the poshest part of Essex.
I've never been there.
What?
Leoncé.
What?
Why? I don't know anything about it.
No, it's nice. It's been consistently voted the nicest place to live, but probably by people that live in Leoncé. But I live in London now anyway. So
You're out of Essex.
yeah.
So back to Heartland.
Yes.
What's the thing to bring it to the UK? Because I don't know a lot about them, but I'm aware of them as a think tank, a conservative think tank
they've
in
been
the
going
US.
for 40 years.
Yeah.
The University of Pennsylvania named them the #1 think tank in the US in terms of their influence.
And so what was the steps to end up bringing that here? Why and how did you get involved in that?
Right. So I used to run an organisation. I started an organisation with a group of Brexiteer donors, backers, no oil money or anything, just a few guys who wanted to put some money behind a project to highlight what they saw as the biggest threat, much bigger threat than Brexit to the UK and to the Western world, actually, which was net zero being used as a horse of Troy to bring in social control, anti-capitalist principles, Trotskyism, if you like, and all of the above. And so we called it CAR 26 because we launched at the same time as COP 26, which I quite famously got thrown out of live on Talk TV, and I had to go and hide in the toilet. It was brilliant. It was so funny. That's on YouTube. Me in the toilet doing my broadcast with Mike Graham with the security banging on the door.
Oh, Connor, you got to find this.
Yeah.
Why did you get thrown out?
Well, because they realised that I was anti-net zero person. You can't have debate because if you have any debate, it exposes it's a load of old tosh. So you can't have debate. So they they recognised me. I don't know why they recognised me. I sort of noticed them noticing me, and I was about to go live. I ran with my ring light and my phone into the toilet, the disabled toilet. And then I'm doing this broadcast with Mike Graham. He's laughing his head off, right? Holding the phone like this, talking about what's going on at COP26 with the security guards banging on the door. And Mike's saying to me, don't they want to have a debate about net zero? I said, a debate? I said, they're throwing me out, Mike. I'm being thrown out. So anyway, we launched it around that time. I was called a climate denier. I was called a nut job. I was called everything under the sun just for wanting to have a debate because no one was talking about it at that point. I mean, even the first time I was on Farage's show on GB News, he really made me, sing for my supper. I was almost accused of being not a conspiracy theorist, but he said, well, why would you have these green policies if it wasn't to help the environment? And I had to say what I believed, that they were being used as an excuse to usher in other stuff in the same way that happened during the pandemic. So I did CAR 26 for quite a long time. And then I became the leader of UKIP briefly. And then I had a couple of months off. And I mean, when I say off, I mean off. No phone, no laptop, nothing. I read lots of books. I cooked. I went to the gym. It's quite nice, actually. I only had 5 numbers on my little burner Nokia phone, 3210. And because I put my other one in the sink. And then when it didn't die, I smashed it up with a hammer. I just had enough. I needed a break. I'd had pneumonia. I'd nearly died. I needed to have some proper time.
Do you romanticize back to that period? Because I had a year when I stopped work. Had a whole year, got in shape, went to the gym.
There were nice bits about it, but then I did get itchy.
I understand that.
Yeah. And so I'd had a relationship with the Heartland Institute from my CAR 26 days.
Yeah.
I used to host regular dinners, which were attended by MPs and other like-minded people and media people as well. And they come to a couple of my dinners in London, at the Carlton Club, St James. And anyway, they had asked me to attend their dinner, their 40th anniversary dinner in Chicago. And I went over there. And I had some preliminary chats with them about, I was at loose end. I had all of this experience. No, loose end's the wrong word. I was available is the right word. I had all this experience. My brand in the UK was, what did I get called the other day by one of these lefty magazines? the notorious climate denier. I'm pleased about that. Anyway, so I
Do you
had
deny there's a climate?
No. I know, it's hilarious. And also it's rude, not just rude, but completely insensitive and inappropriate using the term denier for something like this when the connotations are with the Holocaust and all of that. I think that's particularly insensitive. Anyway, so had some talks with them. I mean, it was amazing actually. At the dinner, I wasn't expecting any of this. That I was asked to stand up and was given a standing ovation by all these donors in the Hilton in Chicago, which is where The Fugitive. You know that? Have you seen the film?
Also, Harrison Ford.
You know the bit at the end where he comes in and there's all like a black tie. It was in that room, and they asked me to stand up, and they said that this they didn't say girl because they're a bit PC. This lady. Woman, whatever, has changed the narrative in the UK on net zero, because the polling that we've done, by the time I came to the end of my tenure at Car 26, showed that over 50% in a YouGov poll of those that expressed an opinion, British people, thought that climate change wasn't man-made, and that was not the figure when I started.
Yeah, see, I really struggle with this one because I wonder where ideology comes in, where people have done their own research, or they will repeat things they say or say things. I wonder where the influence is, because you can have influence both sides.
Absolutely right. I do think that there is an influence, but actually more CO2 is much better for the planet. I mean, since we've had more, there's a lot of physicists and scientists that believe that we need a lot more CO2, that we're actually on a level now which, if it gets too much lower, all of human life and all of green life will stop existing. Since CO2 has increased in the last, I don't know, 100 years, we've had global greening.
Yeah, see, this is where I really struggle, because I don't understand.
You don't put it in greenhouses, don't you?
Yeah, I know, but I don't understand why we can't, with the scientists that we have, get a consensus on what is actually happening.
Because they don't want a consensus, because they're using it to usher in stuff that has nothing to do with the planet.
Yeah, but there's also, like, there are credible scientists who believe that humans are causing a rise in temperatures, and there are credible scientists who believe alternative opinions.
No,
right?
I agree with that.
And do you know what? It frustrates me, Lois. I just want to know.
But the thing is, even if, I mean, so we've had a 1.1% increase in temperature, right? So over the last 100 years. But we're coming out of a mini ice age.
Yeah, but again, do you know what's going to happen? The funny thing is, this part of the conversation, if you go into YouTube and look at the comments, there'll be people going, no, but have you not read this, and have you not seen that?
I know.
I just,
But did you know? Okay, all right, I'll just throw a couple of things out there. We've had medieval warming period, Roman warming period, much warmer than it is now. And I mean a lot warmer. They were growing grapes and making wine in Manchester. Okay, right. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, I don't know.
I think it would have been shit wine, though.
Well, yeah, but it was hot enough, is what I'm saying, to grow. We had, if you want to go back,
but that's not really scientific.
Well, no, it isn't, but it was a lot warmer. And the CO2, there wasn't many. Chris Eubank was not driving around in his Hummer in medieval England and Roman England. And we've had periods in our history and global history where CO2 levels have been much higher and it's been much colder. Honestly, it's not. It's not what they're saying it is. It really, really is.
Well, that's why I just want to know, because you see the reports on, ice in Greenland melting.
Yeah,
ice
actually ice in other parts of the world, even the IPCC acknowledge this, is increasing.
Well, that's the seasonal stuff, right?
If you look at it on average over the entire globe, and it's balanced. It's melting in some places and increasing in others.
Okay, I'd have to see that, because I haven't seen that. But no,
that's fine.
But there are two groups of people having opposing arguments, and you can you can do an observation. Why would someone argue one way? So I think there's a whole group of people just like.
Can I make one point?
Can we just get the truth?
Look at the look, and I'm not saying the right isn't guilty of this as well. That if you have one opinion, you tend to have same opinions on other things. Yeah, but there tend to be the people who believe in all this stuff, anti-capitalist, pro-Gaza, pro-Hamas, they tend to be pro kids being given hormones there seems to be a set of beliefs that comes not with normal people that have certain views, but the extreme people, the Just Stop Oil people, they could literally go on any one of a number of 6 or 7 protests equally. They all the belief system seems to be lumped in with a sort of neo-Marxist ideology, and also they tend to be people that don't have any faith, and of course there's nothing wrong with that, but then if you make something else your faith and become just as what's the word, not pathological, but if you become just as fanatical about net zero and the climate stuff as you would if you were a fanatical extremist of another religion, then that is a problem. And I do think it's replaced that for kids. This whole thing about denying yourself, about being a good person, Saint Greta, God, David Attenborough sitting there telling us that there's too many humans in the world. I bet it won't be his family that's depopulated.
Have you read the Righteous Mind?
No, I haven't.
It's a really, really good book. It's fascinating. Jonathan Haidt wrote it.
Right.
It's one of my favorite books I've read because he explains why some people are conservative and some people are more
My
progressive.
background is the Labour Party.
Well, mine's not. I've never been a communist.
No.
But
well, I didn't see myself like that at all. I mean,
you're in a red dress today.
Yeah, well, that's because men like me in red. Don't go any deeper than that. That is literally the base reason why I wear red, okay?
But this book's brilliant, Lois. I think you really like it because I wanted to know, why is it all these people think this way and share views on conservatism? Why is it all these people are progressive and think the same and share the same views? And apparently it's some of it's nature, some of it's nurture, but it's to do with the basis of where your foundational principles come from. Like if you're progressive, your foundational principles tend to be about do care and do no harm. So if you start to look at all these issues, It's like, oh, I'm caring for the environment. I'm caring for.
But I see myself as an environmentalist.
No. I'm not saying you're not, but the founding principle comes from that point.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're a conservative, your founding principle tends to become focus on the family and the individual unit, and it's a fascinating. I think you'd really enjoy the book.
No, I'd love to. I'd love to read that. I mean, my upbringing, I was brought up primarily by my grandparents. My mum is a bit of a wild artist character. I'm the eldest of 6 actually, but I've lived with my grandparents as an only child sort of thing. But my granddad had a Labour background, but was not a fan of the unions at all. He thought they were thugs. But he was a capitalist socialist that believed that you needed capitalism to fund socialism. But his version of socialism wasn't what's going on at the moment.
Yeah.
It was about having safety nets and the original principles, the founding principles, traditional principles. So, like for example, he resigned from the local Labour Party when they introduced prescription charges because he said it'll just go mad and no one will be able to afford it. But he believed he had his own business. He ran a factory with 80 staff, and he believed in looking after everyone, believed in paying taxes, all of that. I mean, yeah, I do idolise him. But so my upbringing was quite interesting in that, and he was very much he didn't want anyone to tell him what to do. He wanted to do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. So it's
traditional Labour.
It's a traditional Labour. They're the people that are coming over to reform, actually, interestingly enough. But I always saw myself as Labour. And when Tony Blair presented himself, how old was I when? Okay, so I was 13 or 14 when he became leader, I think. And I thought, oh, this is great. Bear in mind, I was 13 or 14, right? This is great. You can be Labour and you can be pro-business. And, as Peter Mandelson famously said, I'm decidedly relaxed about people being filthy rich or something like that. And I just thought, yeah, this works for me, and I was door knocking and all of that kind of stuff for him when I was 15 in the election. Little did I know what was actually going on, but things really, really, really changed for me. Later on, when all this, all this woke stuff and all this anti-business stuff, and I never saw myself as a conservative. So I actually went right off politics for a long while. And what woke me up, I bet you can guess. COVID. Yeah. And then I thought, no, something needs to happen here. And I got involved with the Reclaim Party with Lawrence Fox's things. First of all, I became the Southeast representative and the woman's spokesperson for a while. But they were an interesting...
Why did Reclaim struggle to create real cut through?
It's very important that you don't lose this, okay? This is your inheritance through Bitcoin.
Let Bitcoin rip. Don't rip up your Bitcoin. Set up inheritance with Casa.
I know, because I get on really well with Lawrence and Martin now. I don't want to say anything. Do you know what? I think what they did at the time that they did it was really significant. I think they did make the cut through, but they made the cut through when it was necessary. Effectively, they were an anti-lockdown party.
Right.
And so they were of their time. And I would say if you encapsulate what Reclaim did during that period, it was extremely important, actually, and then became less significant once the lockdown had stopped. But I mean, Lawrence Fox and Martin Daubney at the time, they were heroic in what they were doing. That I'm now permanently banned from the BBC because of Lawrence. But it's not such a bad thing. So I was a regular on Jeremy Vine Channel 5 show, a panelist, and a regular on BBC Radio 2 on his show and other shows. And so they had me on talking about something or other, and it's live. And I decided to use my slot, which I shouldn't have been. I didn't tell them I was going to do this, to endorse Lawrence Fox as Mayor of London.
Does that break some kind of Ofcom rule?
Well, I mean, I doubt they'd given him much coverage, so I probably actually made them Ofcom complicit. Not complicit, compliant. Sorry, compliant. Yeah, complicit. Yeah. But anyway, that was the last time I was on the BBC. But they loved it at the Reclaim Party. They thought, great. And I was involved with them for a while. And then I made a decision to step away from that. It was a bit disorganised.
There's been a few attempts to break this historical Labour Conservative stronghold of politics, with the Lib Dems kind of swimming around and maybe getting in a coalition like Reclaim and UKIP, and now
they're insidious, the Lib Dems. You've got to watch them.
But the first time that we've seen real cut through to break is
right now.
Yeah, and Nigel has done a really impressive job.
He is. He's a hero.
Yeah, it's done a really impressive job. That to have them now leading a poll, and look, we know polls are different, but it's impressive to see somebody get to that.
But he's leading the polls. Reform are leading the polls. He's leading the polls when they're very weighted against him. Even with the weighting. So, for example, I think up until extremely recently, when YouGov did voting intention polling, they didn't even have Reform on the list. It had Greens. So it had Conservatives, Labour, Lib Dems and Greens, and then other party. You had to click, go on to another page, and then Reform were towards the bottom of that list. Even with weighting against them like that, weighting as in WEIGHTINGNG, yeah. Even with weighting against them like that, they were still winning.
Well, I just think it's really impressive. I'm intrigued to see what happens over this next 4 years.
Okay.
Because everything's going a bit weird. Like, Labour have come in at a time where the country is not in a good state, and I've tried to implement some traditional Labour things, which is higher tax.
It traditional?
Well,
higher tax.
The higher tax and well,
a lot of it is not working class traditional.
But it's
Labour.
not working. And so actually...
No, because we're not interested, are we?
No, but it's almost, I think, in the scene it's not working. And so they have to go a little bit more conservative in some of their ideas. I can see a switch where Labour realise we're absolutely going to get eviscerated in the next election if we don't get this economy growing. And I think they're going to have to start reducing taxes. I think the way
inheritance taxing is a big.
Yes, but the weight of public opinion against them is huge. The amount of Labour voters who really voted as a protest vote against the Conservatives, who are now like, oh, I totally regret this. This has been a nightmare. So seeing what they're doing, seeing the Conservatives, how they're going to have to try and reform what they're doing and their policies, while at the same time you've got reform leading this kind of exciting new charge, but having to establish themselves.
They're having to retrofit. I think
Yeah.
that's the word that you use in property, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're retrofitting an organisational structure, a party organisational structure, branches and everything at every level. And another hero is Zia, Zia Youssef.
I just saw him on Question Time the other day. I thought it was very impressive.
He's great. He's a friend of mine, a great guy. What he's doing is extraordinary in terms of structuring. It's not restructuring, it's structuring the party. When you look at Labour, Conservatives, hundreds of years of infrastructure, party infrastructure. You got reform and they've got the momentum, they've got the people behind them, but they've got to do all of this stuff now.
Did you watch him on Question Time?
Yes, I did. Do
you know what I thought was
very clever guy?
Well, what I thought was really interesting about him is he just sat there very calm.
Oh yeah,
he let everyone speak, and then he would just cut in, and he would just focus on the issue and give a very articulate, sensible reply to the issues. No emotion. He didn't look like he was trying to play the audience.
I've been in meetings with him. And you know what I'm like? I'm a bouncy Tigger, and he can manage me. And if someone can manage me, they can manage a political party.
But building out that infrastructure over the next 4 years is going to be a huge challenge. And trying to see how the media is going to, because you know what the media's like. Once they know something works, they're going to go after it and try and get involved. It's a bit like how we have the I talk about the rest of politics guys a lot. They're moaning about Trump, but they talk about him all the time because they actually said
they're giving him energy, like they're giving him oxygen, literally.
Well, they said 8 of their 10 biggest shows are about Trump.
Yeah.
And so they're incentivized to cover him.
It was like when I did the show, I was a permanent team captain on a show called That Was the Woke That Was, where it was presented.
What was that?
Oh, it was brilliant. In its heyday, we were on YouTube. I mean, this is probably not big compared to you, but we were getting like 200,000-300,000 viewers a week on YouTube, Talk TV. It was a Talk TV show presented by Andre Walker, who's a good friend of mine. And actually we are going to be doing, I'm sure I'm allowed to say this, if I'm not, it's too late. Andre and I are doing our own show, a sort of version of the news quiz show, That Was the Woke That Was, at the Reform Rally next month in Birmingham. So anyone that's coming along to that, please come and see Andre and I's show.
This Reform Rally, is this an attempt to start to do similar to what happens in America? Because talking about a rally rather than a conference, the idea that you bring a group of people together and start to create a momentum behind the party.
I can't speak for them. I don't work for them. But yeah, I would say that's not an unfair appraisal. Yeah,
because it'd be quite an interesting approach because it feels very American and it works in America. I'd be intrigued to see how it would work here.
Well, some of the conferences that I've seen on television and online and attended they've done.
Conferences are stodgy. Conferences are stodgy.
Yeah, but the most recent ones that they've done have been a bit American-y feel. The feel has been American-y. Yeah, absolutely. Because in a way, what we've got now is what we've got with Nigel Farage is. You remember the momentum that Blair had behind him?
Yeah.
It was Blair, wasn't it? It wasn't a Labour Party, it was Blair.
It was impressive.
This is similar, but different. This is much more presidential, the momentum behind him personally. This is much more Trumpian. And I think it works with the whole rally thing. I really do.
See, the Blair comparison is an interesting one because I never voted for Blair and I wouldn't.
I wasn't old enough to vote.
So I was just old enough. I think I was 19. No, I was 18. It was my first ever election I voted in. I obviously didn't vote for Labour. I never would. But you could
stop rubbing it in.
But you could observe the the momentum behind it. There was an excitement.
There was an excitement. It was, and that is something that again they have harnessed, is the positivity and hope.
Well, that's the thing. So even though I didn't vote for them, when they came in, you could feel, I don't know,
Cool Britannia and
it
all of
felt
that
like the
stuff.
country lifted. Even though I didn't vote for them, it felt like the country
There was
lifted.
a lift, and you had Patsy Kensit and Liam Gallagher on the front cover of what was it? Was it Rolling Stone with Cool Britannia
I
and
don't know,
wrapped
maybe.
in a Union Jack? And yeah, there was a vibe, there was a thing going on.
And it's not the same, but I can imagine at a time if Reform win, there would be an excitement around it. But that's because there's so much expectation and hope that Reform can do something that neither the Conservatives or Labour have done recently.
But they don't want to. I think the point is that the difference is that the public feel that they want to make change, whereas they have no faith in the Uniparty that they have any intention or desire to
Or
have.
can they actually do it?
Well,
I mean, Liz
even-
Truss talked about it.
Yeah, but it's slightly different. She didn't have her party behind her. They'd be all brand new, fresh MPs.
Well,
and
but that's what I mean. It's like I say
she was pulled down by her own party and the Globalists that wanted Rishi out. I actually did a piece to camera for Mark Stein on GB News years ago, when they deposed Liz Truss and put Rishi in, that had the record number of complaints they've ever had from MPs. 55 MPs rung in and complained about my piece to camera.
Why? What did you say?
So I've got notorious climate denier and the person that sparked the most complaint. I said
Kicked out of COP26,
I
banned
know,
from the BBC.
I know. Is something wrong with me? I think
Loose
I don't
cannon.
know. Oh no, I'm a focused loose cannon. But anyway, I just said I thought there'd been a globalist coup. I said that that Liz Truss had been deposed, that there were sleeper agents within the government, and they put Rishi, their banker boy, in, and that everyone should be frightened. That the name of my piece to camera is "Democracy is Dead." I can't imagine why 55 MPs rung in and complained. Can you? But it got over 1 million views.
It's this long decline that. What do you put as a background to this? Why, for example, is the Conservative Party not conservative anymore?
Because it's been taken over
By who?
by people. It's quite interesting, actually. I watched a documentary recently that said that everyone assumes that the globalist sort of agenda has come from, I don't know, UN, Davos, all of these kind of sinister groups or whatever.
Is it venture capital?
Well, this documentary said that it's actually come from Silicon Valley, because there was a group of people that believed that if computers were running the world, that we were all linked by computer, the internet and everything, there would be no need for nation states. There would be no need for individual governments. There would be no need for any restrictions on movement, that the computers would manage the world and the computers would run the financial markets as well, and that everything was sort of self-balanced and self-managed. I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but this was the orthodoxy and the way of thinking of a huge number of the big and original computer, online, software entrepreneurs, multi-millionaires in Silicon Valley in the sort of 90s and everything. So everyone does make the assumption that it's some sinister Klaus stroking the cat in Davos or whatever. But actually, I think there's other things at play. I think you've got the financial institutions. I think you've got the big tech companies, and then of course you do have the big institutions that are multi-nation, that incorporate things like the WHO and stuff like that. But he was asked. Our Prime Minister was asked by Emily Maitlis, who wears more makeup than I do, right? And that's no mean feat. But at least mine's the right colour for my face. She asked Keir Starmer, "Are you happy? Where are you happiest, Davos or Westminster?" And he replied, "Davos." They're not hiding it. He said, "I prefer Davos to Westminster," our own Prime Minister. It's like the farming minister the other day. He actually made a statement to the farmers. Farming and farmers are not top of the priority list for Labour. well, why don't you get a farming minister that actually does think that it's a priority? You know, they're not hiding the fact that they don't care about certain things and that their agenda is bigger than the UK. It's, you know, they don't believe in borders. They don't believe we should have sovereignty. They don't believe in any of it.
But what is it they believe in then?
They believe that we are one. That it's a global project. There's no borders, and they're neo-Marxists. They are. You know what it is? I was talking to my daughter about this, right? And I was talking to her about net zero, who profits from subsidies, who profits from this, who profits from that. And she said, "Oh my God, Mummy, is it like when the pigs go and live in the house in Animal Farm?" And I said,
Go on,
"Yeah,
girl.
good girl. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's exactly. We are all equal, but some of us are more equal than others. So we're not going to be allowed to drive. We're not going to be allowed to go on holiday." Ed Miliband has announced in the last couple of days they're imposing an immediate tax on flights that will come into before this summer for working class people to make flights unaffordable for normal, ordinary families that work bloody hard all year for their 2 weeks or 10 days. You know, they won't be able to travel. They won't have their own car. They won't be able to do anything whatsoever. But the pigs who live in the house, they're all right. They're flying all over the place. They're eating meat. They're doing whatever the hell they want. So
That's very observant of your daughter.
she's a good girl.
I
Isn't she?
like that. It's making me
Do you want to
think.
hear her remarks on feminism?
Go
So she was being a bit.
on. How old is she? You don't have to say if you don't want.
No, she's 14.
So I've got a 14-year-old.
She's
daughter.
not like I was at 14. She's like a little girl 14. Yeah, it's a bit different for me. But anyway, she she went out with she was supposed to be at a friend's house, and we found out that she was in a park late at night, and the friend had disappeared, then couldn't find her, and Lola was in a park on her own at night, 14, and you know,
Yeah.
she looks like a supermodel basically, although she doesn't wear any makeup or anything, and we freaked out. As you can imagine, it was a total freak out. Then we couldn't find her. Her phone was off, everything. Anyway, so I've got a place in London. So she splits her time between London and Essex, right? So we went and got some food, and we were walking back to my flat, right? And she goes to me, "It's not fair anyway. You know, boys can go to the park. It's not, she doesn't want to be a boy, obviously. But she said, it's not fair that because I'm a girl, it's a big deal about me being out at night. You know, she said, why can't they control themselves? Why when they see boobs anyway? She goes, what's wrong with them? You know, right? Like, it just annoyed her, you know, that the very fact that she was a girl made it different about her being out on her own at night. And I thought, yeah, you've got a point. She wasn't saying that she wasn't going to do what we asked her to. She was just saying it's just unfair. And why can't they control themselves anyway? She's going. And I thought that's my daughter doing feminism, which I thought was quite funny.
Well, because boys are idiots.
Yeah. I just said, you know what? I said, yeah, it isn't fair, but it's the way it is, you know, and she was like, yeah, I know. But it was just funny how she went off on this rant about it.
I don't know if my daughter's read Animal Farm. I'm going to have to check. You had to read it at school, did you? Yeah, you liked it.
It's a good cartoon version of it. She's read the book, but there's also a really, really good cartoon version of it.
I'm going to dig it out and make sure my daughter reads it.
And Kia would definitely be one of the pigs living in the house.
Yeah, of course he would be one of the
But the other
pigs.
thing that's interesting in Animal Farm is about the left's hatred of old people. And I think, so for example, in the book, the pigs promise that there'll be land that is for the horses when they retire, so they can just chill.
Yeah.
And then one of the most sinister parts of the book is when one of the other animals notices that the area that's supposed to be for the horses for their retirement is being used for something else, and there's no sign of the horses. And scrapping winter fuel payments, assisted suicide, burdens. I don't know. It's all looking a bit Orwellian, isn't it? I think even Orwell would look at what was going on and think, Christ alive, I couldn't have come up with this, you know.
It's that meme, make Orwell fiction again.
Yeah, Elon Musk did it. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it's just this really weird time. I think one of the interesting things is watching people kind of wake up to it and realise. I've certainly later than other people I know. They used to say, "Wake up, Pete! You can't see what's going on. You stay this cocky, blah blah blah." And they're right. There's certain things I'm just starting to think like, this is enough.
Yeah.
It's so obvious what's going on. Again, I say it again. I'm gonna sound like a broken record. Taxes are going up.
Yeah.
Growth is stagnant. Government's getting bigger. There's more regulation. There's more
an attack on
enforcement.
private enterprise.
Attacks on private
Freedom.
enterprise. Attacks on freedom. Attacks on liberty. Attacks on free speech. You go to jail for sending a tweet, but you get a suspended sentence if you're a nonce. All the millionaires are leaving. If you work for the BBC, I mean, Hugh Edwards, how he was not sent to you had a chance here to just say, here, let's prove that there is an elite that protects each other. We have a TV presenter on his phone. They catch the highest, most disgusting grade pedo nonsense.
It's awful.
And they give him a suspended sentence because of his mental health. And it was just like, do you follow Dapper Laughs on Twitter?
No.
Oh, you will love this guy. Conk, you find Dapper Laughs. You will.
I'm getting some good, recommendations today.
So search on Twitter for Dapper Laughs, but go in the videos. There's the one where he talks about Hugh Edwards. If you can find that, it's brilliant.
Yeah, you're right. Hugh Edwards. I hadn't thought of it like that. They had an opportunity to prove that there wasn't a cover up, that the BBC wasn't, paedophile paradise. And they didn't take it.
They didn't take it.
I wonder if it's for the same reason that they never did Jimmy Savile, because Jimmy Savile used to boast, they will never do me because I know where the bodies are buried. Do you remember?
This is the one.
Oh, right.
You're going to love this. I'm trying to get him on the pod. I think.
Mate, this one, mate.
Mate, is he Essex?
Yeah.
Nonsense going on here, boys. This one's mental. Another breaking news story. Yeah, another win for the state-funded pedo factory. I am, of course, talking about the old BBC. Yeah, their flagship presenter Hugh Edwards, who paid for 41 indecent images. I'm talking about the worst, skanky, dirty, rotten images of children that you could think of. The most abusive stuff. He just got a suspended sentence, no jail time. Now, make this make sense. The other day, we put a pensioner, 67-year-old man in prison for 20 months, yeah, for shouting, "You're not English anymore" at the old bill.
Is this the guy?
Yeah, so words in the UK now, according to
not him.
To the UK justice system, words are worse than nonsense, mate. Where are you off to? Hold up, someone posted something on Facebook.
I like this guy.
He is amazing. So he was cancelled at one point. I think he made a rape joke and he was cancelled, but he's kind of rebuilt his career as back on tour. He's doing very well.
Do you miss dark humour a bit? I do.
Well, so interestingly, I'm going to say something that's going to sound really controversial. Might piss some people off at the moment. But this thing that's come out about these Labour MPs in this WhatsApp group?
Yeah. It was private.
It was private, and I wonder.
Must admit, I do feel a bit conflicted.
Yeah, I feel conflicted because
he didn't say it to the woman, did he?
No, I'm not sure. Did he mean it, or was he trying to say it in jest? And they all come out. Some other guys come out and say, "I was in that group," and if my WhatsApps came out, I would be cancelled a million times. We just because you joke, you make jokes, dark humour.
You don't even want to know about mine.
Yeah, because you want to have a bit of fun. Honestly, it's
private. It's supposed to be.
Yeah, because you can't say these things publicly because Keir Starmer might send you to jail. So you say things privately, just have a joke. And sometimes the humour's a bit dark at times, but you're just having a joke, right?
And sometimes people make jokes about things that are dark because otherwise, it's the old adage, isn't it? If you don't laugh, you cry.
Yeah, you go.
Gallows humour. We're very good at it in this country.
And I'm not comfortable about people apologising for things said in a private group because
there was nothing to do with them.
Yeah, it was said privately. It's it might be distasteful and it might be gross. And I haven't seen the messages. All I could think was at the time, I 100% have said things privately to other people that is maybe a joke. Like he might not. What did he say? Is this it? Trigger me timbers, Andrew. But
he did say something about somebody had a Jewish sounding name, so we don't want him there.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, that's not a dark joke. That's just horrible. Yeah.
Oh, I know, love, but I get his mother a ticket to the pensioners' party every year. Definitely Labour. Ha ha. I know her from Morris Security. I mean, look, it looks like they're having a joke with each.
That particular bit, yeah. I do agree with you to a certain extent. I think That particular comment about somebody having the wrong sounding surname is different. But again, it is a private WhatsApp group.
But we're cancelling people for saying things privately. It gets you to.
But that's very sinister. Actually.
Yeah, because you worry about at any point you can't. What can I say? Can I say stuff privately? In any situation, am I going to be in a conversation privately? In Project Veritas have been quite good at making people think they're on a date and getting them to expose things. It's their form of journalism. But am I at some point going to?
But I think that's horrible. That's entrapment.
Yeah, but could I end up being in a conversation privately with somebody I think who's a friend, and suddenly they're recording it, and I make some dumb dark joke, and that's it. I'm done. I'm finished.
No, that's not fair.
Yeah, no, and I don't feel 100% comfortable.
In the pubs, the legislation that Angela Rayner is trying to bring in, whereby someone could say something in a pub that was, I don't know, said they didn't agree with kids being transitioned or whatever, and that it could upset technically the person working behind the bar, and so that person has committed a crime because they've said a non-woke thing in a pub.
I mean, that's just absolute nonsense.
Well, that's again, it's overused term, but that's Orwellian.
I think the woke stuff's dying. We had, do you know Eric Kaufman?
Yes.
Yeah, we had him in last week. I thought it was super interesting when he was explaining where it starts from, that the woke ideology starts from within schools. It's the teachers who are doing it. And look, by the way, if kids are a bit left with their ideas, I think that's kind of fair. I would expect a kid to have misplaced empathy and misplaced understanding about how the world works. Yeah. But he said when you've got teachers indoctrinating,
then that's very different.
That's a problem.
Although my daughter's generation aren't particularly woke; they're sick of it all.
Yeah, I agree.
Lola is absolutely sick of it. She really is. You can't say this. You can't say that. She says that it's a very people from all different backgrounds and stuff at her school, and certain kids can make jokes about someone's background, but you can't retaliate. Not that they want to, but it's all very unfair. And we had
this stuff this week with Sam Kerr, the footballer. She came out. I think she got off. She got off on her racially aggravated crime or wherever it was, but she'd been out. Do you know her? She's a footballer.
Yes.
She'd been out drinking. She vomited in a taxi, and then the taxi driver get to pay, and then she got arrested. And...
It sounds like a good night out.
Well, but then with the police, she said something. You'll probably find this, Connor. Said something about the police about being
fucking stupid and white.
Yeah, fucking stupid and white.
Oh right.
And I think the point that people were making is if somebody had said, "Yeah, here we go." I don't know who needs to hear this, but Sam Kerr is a vile racist. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And I think
it's not fair. Yeah.
I think some of the commentary had come back and said, "Well, what if that had been a white person said fucking stupid and black? You would be cancelled instantly." And why? Yeah. It's a bit skewy how people get away with this.
What it is it's making their generation not woke.
Yeah.
It really is. And I mean, Lola, there's a girl that thought she was a cat, and Lola and her friends, they weren't bullying her, but they were asking her questions like, do you identify as a cat and stuff like that? It's all.
They should have dressed as a dog and chased her.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was the other? There's like lesbianism and all of that kind of stuff. And Lola's just. We sent Lola to a Roman Catholic girls' school mainly because we do have faith. I'm not Roman Catholic. I'm High Church of England. Her dad's Roman Catholic. We're divorced now. But one of the reasons that we chose that school is A, no boys. B, we didn't have to pay for it, finally, not having to pay school fees. And C, and most importantly, they weren't going to be pushing the whole trans ideology. They were going to be doing the minimum that they could get away with being a state school in terms of pushing all of that kind of
Yeah, but you
stuff.
say this. My daughter's in a private school, and I got a letter recently from...
How old is she? Same age?
Same age, yeah. From the head of...
EDI.
Yeah, but it's EDI. For some reason they flipped it.
What is that?
Equity, diversity, inclusion. They flipped the letters around.
Oh, right.
And they talked to me about the frameworks coming. I was like, whoa. And just the thing is, there was no DEI when I was at school.
No.
We didn't need it.
No.
We weren't racist. we weren't idiots. We understood how the world worked, but we were taught maths, biology, chemistry, and we did some debating and business.
I remember everyone getting on okay.
Yeah, we did business skills, and we had young entrepreneurs where we created our first business. I think we printed teachers, and we got told to write letters to fame. So we did all this stuff. And now I'm like, what is it you think you're going to teach my daughter that she's not learning at home? And by the way, what happens if that contradicts it?
At Ledden, we built the best Bitcoin-backed loan platform in the world. Proven, trusted, growing. Ledden's proven track record speaks for itself. Visit ledden.io/Mr. Obnoxious to get started. Ledden, there is no second best. Ledden is not regulated in the United Kingdom. Any credit products or virtual asset services provided by Ledden are not subject to UK regulatory protections. Please consider the risks associated with virtual assets and consult a financial advisor before making any decisions.
Yes. So did they? What was?
I haven't seen the framework. We've been
it?
told it's coming, and I say
the head teacher assured us when we made the decision for her to go to that school that they don't have an exemption because they're Roman Catholic, but they do what they have to and no more. In terms of the PHSE and all that.
Have you seen what's happened with Starbucks in, I think it's, is it Minnesota or Maryland?
Oh, no, what's happened?
So search for Starbucks being sued. This is super interesting because it's all starting to collapse now. All this woke bullshit is, the whole framework's starting to collapse. I'm going
to try and pour some water without wrong.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Just go.
Okay, because I was told to keep my arms.
If we leave it that side of the mic, it's better for us.
Leave it over here?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
You found it? Yeah, here you go. Check this out. It's Missouri sues Starbucks over coffee giant's DI practices. The state of Missouri has filed a lawsuit against Starbucks on Tuesday, accusing the coffee giant of using its DEI initiatives to engage in systematic discrimination based on race, gender, and sexual orientation.
Okay.
Filed in the federal court of St. Louis, the lawsuit alleges that Starbucks linked executive pay to meeting racial and gender hiring quotas. It also claims the company favors certain groups for training and advancement opportunities and maintained a quota system to diverse its
and they're saying that's illegal.
Yeah, all of this is unlawful. Missouri's Republican Attorney General Andrew Bailey said in the complaint, arguing the policies violate federal, state, civil rights laws. Bailey also alleged that Missouri consumers faced higher prices and longer wait times at Starbucks because the company prioritizes diversity over
so
hiring.
They're basically saying, got no talent whatsoever are working there.
Well, they're just
very slow.
Well, they're basically saying you think you're anti-racist by doing this, but you are being racist because you're
discriminating.
You're discriminating.
And the law, I should imagine,
civil
it's about
rights.
having no discrimination.
Well, and probably the law was originally established during the civil rights movement when there was
black people, but that's not needed anymore. So
yeah, I think the problem is that the thing they're trying to fix is the outcome, but they're not trying to fix the opportunity. I've got no issue. Like, people should be trying to, if there are certain areas and certain cities where there's certain communities that are deprived, got less opportunity, let's try and give them more opportunity. But don't fix the outcome. And the fact that this is, it's like nature is starting to heal.
Was it the most gorgeous man on the entire planet says in Jurassic Park? Jeff Goldblum.
I met him on a plane once.
I met him once. I'll tell you the story in a minute. Because there are 2 or 3 humans alive in the world that haven't heard my Jeff Goldblum story. And you're one of them. But in Jurassic Park, he says, life will find a way. Do you remember?
Yep.
Yeah. Because they're all supposed to be girls, aren't they? Mm-hmm. In Jurassic Park. And something happens and they start fertilizing each other anyway. But do you want to hear my Jeff Goldblum story? Okay. So, all right. I have to go from the beginning. So everyone has a moment where they realise that they're either straight or not, or whatever. They have, I don't know, maybe you might see somebody on television or in a magazine and you think, oh, that's a funny feeling. I never felt that before. Well, mine was, I was 10 years old and my mum, being very naughty, and I was staying with her, let me watch The Fly, which I believe is a 15, but anyway, it's another story. And there was a particular scene in it where he's turning it from normal Jeff into the Fly and he's doing all this sort of aerobic acrobatic stuff, right? Anyway, I had my ping moment during that. I thought, wow, okay, that was weird. Anyway, so
mine was Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, not Eddie Murphy.
No, the blonde police lady.
No, I'm joking, of course. Yeah, good choice. But anyway, you can't control it. It just happens, doesn't it? And anyway, when I was 18, I was dating a guy who is an MBE now, a guy called Maurice Bright, MBE. He's the chairman of Pyman Studios for a time. And we were at a party and he knew my Goldblum thing. And Jeff was there. And he took me over, right? And he said, "Oh, Mr. Goldblum, I'd like you to meet my my girlfriend." He was a bit older than me, Lois. And so Jeff said, "Oh, hi, Lois. Lovely to meet you." Silence. Couldn't speak.
Of course.
So then he goes, "So are you enjoying the party?" Nothing. And I never shut up ever, do I? And then he tried again. Nothing was happening. I was completely, nothing, no words. There was no communication. And he turned to Maurice and he said, "She's cute. She's mute, but she's cute."
Yeah.
So unfortunately, he thinks I'm retarded.
Well, I met him. I was flying out to LA, and I met him in the toilets between first class where he was and peasant class where I was. I went to the toilet.
Peasant class.
I came out of the toilet, and
there was Jeff.
Yeah, I was like, "You're Jeff Goldblum?" And he was like, "Yeah," and he was so nice. We had a photo. He asked me.
Unfortunately, he thinks I'm a muppet.
Well, he asked me what I was doing in LA, and then and then he said, and his band. Told me he was in a band, and they were playing a concert. And he told me to come down. I didn't go, but
really,
yeah, he's in a band.
Getting like mega gel here.
Yeah, the photo's up on my Instagram. That's me. I was a lot thinner back then.
I'll have to have a look.
He was so nice.
Well, I still have a framed picture of Jeff in my kitchen, but it's from Jurassic Park. You know that one with the black shirt.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Anyway. You better change the subject.
So anyway, but it must be an interesting time to be bringing Heartland to the. And I know no Conservatives here know Heartland anyway, as things in the US, but bringing them to UK now must be an interesting time because it's at a time where I think there's a general shift for a certain number of people towards conservatism.
I think you're right.
There's the
genuine conservatism, not the conservatives that we have in power.
Yeah,
not in opposition.
And I'm sure you're friends with Mark Littlewood. I'm sure you talk to him. And another small C conservative is very interested in what's happening at the moment. But traditionally, it would be the conservative big C party.
Yeah.
But now you've got two, essentially, one by name, one by action, conservative parties at the moment. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that was made even more, that's even more the case since the coalition. Because you had loads of with Clegg and Cameron, because you effectively had lots of Liberal Democrats in their hearts become Conservative MPs. They were selected as Conservative MPs, but they're not Conservative.
Well, they've dragged the party down.
They have, yeah.
And they're still there.
They have. They are still there. They're all, I would say that CCHQ is totally Liberal Democrat now.
Yeah, but I do think Kemi's trying to change things. I do.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have a different opinion. I think I'm trying to read between the lines.
It's a bit embarrassing.
I don't know. I quite like her. I quite like her, but I'm trying to read between the lines of what I've read in Liz Truss's book and what she said at this table. The various people I've spoken to is that there's what you want to do and what you can do, and the certain amount of it is a bit of manoeuvring. You can't just. I don't think a Kemi can just come in and suddenly. It completely changed the party overnight to what she wants it to be. I think she's got to maneuver it towards it. That's my read.
And that's the difference between having someone that's put in like Kemi and someone coming in potentially like Nigel, almost presidentially.
But he can do what he wants. It's his party.
So this is the difference between she's got all of that weight on her shoulders, like you said, something fresh coming in that doesn't have all the baggage. So yeah, I mean. I don't know what to say about Kemi.
Well, but
I work with all of the political parties, and including the Conservatives,
and the Greens.
Funnily enough, I wanted to have a stand when I was doing Car 26 at the Green Party conference in Brighton, and obviously debate. Why not have a debate? It's going to bring some of my scientists and physicists down with me. And it was all full steam ahead. They had the form, paid the deposit, and they blocked it at the last minute. They don't want a debate. You can't have a debate. You can only debate something when you can defend it.
Well, you can't debate everything in this country now because you can't say certain things.
Well, I mean, the Ofcom changed the law so that in the past, right, if you wanted to have an idea or a proposition made on television, you had to always have somebody on the other side of the argument, yeah? But they changed the law so that they said that climate change, if they talk about man-made climate change, they don't need to do that anymore. It's almost the only topic that you can have on television where it doesn't have to be changed.
But that's what happened with COVID, right?
Yeah.
We couldn't have alternative theories, alternative ideas.
No, that's absolutely right. So that does tell you something, doesn't it?
Yeah. So in bringing Heartland, what is the goal? Is it what's Heartland bringing to the UK that we don't have at the moment?
Well, we're bringing a little bit of that American magic over to the UK. So we want to influence policymakers. We want to talk to politicians. We're already doing all this stuff. We want to encourage debate. We want to talk about minimal government and free speech and all of those things, and really, really, really push it. And liberty, climate realism, climate debate, rational thinking, science, all of those things that we've done so well in the States, we want to bring to this country. And there isn't anyone doing quite what we're doing in the UK at the moment. I mean, when I did Car 26, we were the only. There was a GWPF, but they were much more on the fence and much more staid. The Global Warming Policy Foundation, that was previously run by Lord Lawson, and Net Zero Watch is part of that as well. In actual fact, they launched Net Zero Watch when we did Car 26 because my tactics were much more guerrilla and much more, well, they're different, basically, less stuffy. And so they thought, we better do something as well, which is great. But we've got a very good relationship with them. But Car 26 was at the time the only organisation challenging the very premise of the net zero argument. And also, we were the only people saying what we thought was really going on. And that's what the Heartland does. But the Heartland has got 40 years behind it. It's got top scientists. It's worked with, as I said, it's been named the most influential think tank in the United States by Pennsylvania University. It's got that heritage. It's got money behind it. It's got affiliations, very strong affiliations with certain big individuals I'm not allowed to mention politically. And
why not?
Because all I will say is that the Heartland has been extremely influential in helping to shape policy at the highest level in under Trump's administration, and in other Republican administrations, but. There's no endorsement as such.
How would we know? So I like some of the idea. I think America's got a better culture of liberty. I don't want.
They certainly have.
I don't want guns here. I know that'll piss off some Americans.
No, well, we wouldn't know how to handle. I mean, they've grown up with guns in America.
But the culture of free speech is something I envy. Yes, I envy the idea of a constitution. And there's certain things where I go to America I really do appreciate. I think there's some hypocrisies there because they have a culture of liberty, but then have a prison industrial complex which monetizes keeping people in prison. So there's like these weird contradictions whereby the liberty and the freedom. And lack of checks on maybe certain areas of business allows people to monetize things they shouldn't monetize. The food system in America, I think a lot of that's bullshit. Like I say, the prison industrial complex, I disagree with.
Yeah, nothing's perfect.
It's how do you strike a balance whereby you get more liberty, but that liberty isn't exploited by big business and rich people to have rules changed in their favor to monetize? Because that's, like you hear about, certain families are considered libertarian in America, but is it libertarian because that benefits their business, or are they really libertarian?
But does it matter ultimately if certain individuals or families do well, if overall everyone has a good standard of living and has their own personal liberty as well, and there's not harm being done?
Well, I think it depends. I think it depends on the consequences of how they're doing well.
No, I agree with you.
If there's a family who does very well out of imprisoning young black men who've maybe
Oh no,
dealt
yeah,
weed. Like,
yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
or,
But
if it's sorry, just
yeah,
said,
sorry.
if it's regulations with regards to maybe chemical companies, and they want, and they've been poisoning the land and killing cows and causing cancers again. I don't want to push freedom to the point of exploitation.
Oh no, I would completely and utterly agree with you on all of those points. But there has to be checks and balances, absolutely. But then it's about, any reasonable person would not think that it's okay for people to be poisoned by chemicals being put into the water.
It's reasonable to think it's okay, but do people get away with making it happen?
You're talking about profit at all costs. I do not agree with that. Absolutely. But if you've got one particular family, for example, that have done very well, but they create thousands of jobs and they look after their employees, this is my background.
Yeah.
Then so what if they've got loads of money?
I know we want.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, good for them.
we want to make the nation wealthier, more prosperous,
and a happy workforce. My granddad said the happier his employees were, the harder they worked,
Yeah.
They're happy workforce, good profit margins, and you go and get through the pearly gates.
So how's this next 4 years going to play out, Lois?
I am going to work my little socks off, building up Heartland UK and Europe. I'm going to be working closely with all of the political parties, and I'm going to be pushing our agenda of freedom and liberty and all of the above, and making sure that no one takes the piss out of us ever again through either net zero or lockdowns or any of that kind of stuff. I'm going to be fighting.
That's good. Well, I think we need it. Everywhere I look and everyone I speak to, people are just pissed off.
Boadicea was an Essex girl, don't you?
No, I don't.
Well, you do now.
Well,
and Anne Boleyn.
Okay.
Rochford, where I was born.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know
You don't mess with us, I tell you.
never mess with an Essex girl. But I just, there's a level of despondency and apathy that's grown because we are at the very start of a administration which hasn't recognised that you cannot tax your way into growth. And they are.
I think they are realising. I think you're right.
They are, but and I just think there's like, fuck, we've got 4 more years of this shit. Yeah, how do we get through this without destroying the country any worse? And I don't see anything come from the Labour Party that gives me an optimism.
I think the polling, though, being so consistently for reform is actually acting almost as a check and balance for the Labour Party. I am noticing, like, for example, I mean, a lot of people said that Kemi Badenoch had a terrible PMQs yesterday, and she sort of did, because unfortunately she had a script and Keir Starmer backed down immediately and she didn't know what to do. She was saying the law must be changed, and he said, yes, you're right, and then the rest of her script didn't work.
Yeah.
But I mean, even him saying we need to close the loophole so that the judges can't overturn it was about a Gazan family settling. I don't think he would be saying that if reform weren't consistently polling where they are.
Well, the immigration thing's interesting because it was reform who've led a lot of the and old small C conservatives who feel disenfranchised with the Conservative Party have been saying there is an issue with immigration. Matt Goodwin's talked about it a lot. Constantine Kissin was just pressurising Kemi in his interview on trigonometry.
I like him.
Yeah, I do. We've had him here. I think
Have you?
Yeah,
I'm in very esteemed company. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you come under strong recommendation.
Really? That's good.
But now Labour are talking. We had Mike Tapp MP from Dover here. He's talking about immigration. Everyone's talking about it.
Especially people coming over with no papers on boats. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, it's an issue you're not going to win votes on by not recognising it's an issue that people are making people fed up.
That's what they've tried to do for a very long time.
Yeah.
And that's why we've got this massive backlash now.
And the sad thing about it is there are genuine people who are genuine asylum seekers that we would want to support as a civilised good nation.
And I always would hope and expect that the UK continues in their long history of looking after genuine asylum seekers and refugees.
But we've lost. I think there's been a loss of empathy for their people now.
It has been,
and I think the lack of. One of my thoughts that keeps going in my mind. I think not dealing with the immigration issue has caused a rise in racism. We see it.
I know for a fact it has.
Just see it in the comments on our YouTube when it comes up. You just see outright racism now.
Well, my stepfather is Jamaican and my sister's a mixed race, and they think it's ridiculous, the advertising. My brothers, funnily enough, experience race. My sisters are both like supermodels, so they don't get racism, but my brothers do, and because they're boys. I know it's terrible, but it's true. And they said that since these adverts have had 90% or 99% black mixed race people, that they've experienced rising racism that they'd never had before, ever. And then and my stepfather believes that it's deliberate. I think it's actually because it's winding people up.
People are certainly wound up. Well, look, listen,
Yeah.
I think the next 4 years are going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Heartland.
Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't allocated my vote, but we will see.
Oh, come off it!
No, look.
Who, really?
I don't trust any politician. I think I just don't trust.
Well, you've got to vote though.
But no, I should, and I haven't the last ones. But I also, I'm reluctant to align myself too much to one party because I want to do.
No, you're absolutely right.
I want to do this job better.
Yeah, you need to have an open mind.
Yeah, I
get it. Same as me.
I can say I wouldn't vote Labour because I'm not a socialist. I don't believe in what Labour stands for. But I want to interview people from there fairly, and I want to interview Conservatives and reform people fairly.
Absolutely right.
So I've not allocated a vote yet. But
okay.
I think this.
Will you tell people how you vote?
If I vote, I won't tell them ahead of an election, but I will tell them afterwards and tell them why.
Okay.
And I could tell them the things I'm wrestling with. Like, I'm wrestling with... I would like to see some proper Thatcherite conservatism come from the Conservative Party, and I would like to see some work from Reform on their structure, and I would like to see Labour...
To be fair, they've only had about 8 months or something.
Yeah. Well,
not centuries, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting. Look, these next 4... Let's wait and see.
Let's see. I tell you what,
Let's get the popcorn out.
It's exciting.
Yes.
It is exciting. My granddad used to tell me the story. He said his mum used to say to it when he used to go around there for a little bit of a pep talk or whatever. She'd say, I can't give you money, but I can give you hope. And he loved that. And that's what I'd like to say to everyone.
Yeah.
I want to give you hope. Come on, let's be positive.
Well, if you can get if Reform start to pull some proper structured plans for what they would do in government and Parliament, not just it. I think people they're knocking on an open door. They're pushing on an open door. People want to hear it.
Okay.
And so I'm excited to see it. We'll have this chat again in.
Watch this space.
We don't have to wait 4 years, but we'll do it 4 years anyway.
No, don't wait 4 years.
All right. Thank you so much. It was good to see you.
No, thank you for having me. I loved it.
Thank you to everyone for listening, and hopefully I'll meet your son at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd love to meep you.
Bring him in next time.
Okay, I will.
We'll get him to talk. And your base daughter.
She's got some views, I tell you.
Thank you everyone for listening.